is your Yoga for Anxiety Gentle class. Hi friend, I am Katie Arnold and I'm so grateful to have you here with me today. I know that anxiety lives in the body and I feel it myself. I have been there, I have been in your position, and today's class is great for all levels. It is beginner friendly just as much as it's great for our seasoned yogis. This is a really gentle class. So we're gonna open up and create space in the body where we hold on to stress and tension. So especially thinking shoulders and hips. So for this class, you will need one blanket. It doesn't have to be any sort of special yoga blanket, but any kind of blanket, or you could also grab like a chunky towel, like a beach towel or bath towel or something like that. You don't want like a smaller hand towel, something a little bit bigger than that, but any kind of blanket or towel. So go ahead and roll out your yoga mat and I will meet you there. All right, so we're gonna get started just in a nice easy seat. So crossing your legs, sitting up nice and tall. We're down through the sit bones. Lengthen the spine. Let the top of your head pull up towards the ceiling. And I just want to encourage and invite you to think about stacking one vertebrae on top of the next. Maybe you blink the eyes closed if that feels safe for you to do so. And just letting yourself come into our practice. Taking some long, slow, deep breaths in. And long, slow, deep breaths out. Inhale, sweep those arms up nice and high. Exhale, take a gentle side body stretch over to the right. So letting that right hand drop beside that right hip. Left arm reaching up and over towards the right side. Continuing to breathe right here. That left bicep by the left ear. Rooting down through that left sit bone. Inhale, coming back up through center. And exhale, take it over to the other side. Left hand by the left hip. Right bicep by the right ear. Root that right sit bone down, reaching those right fingertips. And not worrying about trying to make this too intense. Just bringing some gentle movement into the body. Letting it know that we're about to get into this practice a little bit more. Inhale, coming back up through center. And exhale, take a gentle twist to the right. Right hand behind the right hip, left arm to the right knee. Inhale, up through center. Exhale, twist left, right arm across, left hand behind the left hip. Inhale, up through center. Exhale, twist right. And just noticing we're moving really slow here. Inhale, up through center. Exhale, twist left. Inhale through center. Exhale, twist right. Fighting that urge to take the practice really fast. Inhale, center. Exhale, left. Inhale, center. Exhale, let the hands come behind the head, elbows out nice and wide. So some seated cat-cows. So inhale, gentle puff of that chest. Let the elbows pull back slightly so you feel that little back bend. And then exhale, round the spine, pull the elbows in towards one another. Inhale, that chest puffs up, elbows pull back. Exhale, round that spine, elbows come in. So it's okay, and continuing to move with your breath, it's okay if that seated cat-cow is not quite as accentuated as it might be if you were taking this on hands and knees. So we don't have to make these poses or these variations of poses that we know in other capacities. We don't have to make them mean anything, right? Like, it's not good or bad if our bodies are showing up a little bit differently. And if you just really hate the seated cat-cow for some reason, we're just gonna do one more together. But I invite you to just sit with that discomfort, right? And I know that's not always comfortable, right? Inhale, come back up through center. Exhale, bring those hands down. We'll meet in a tabletop position. So wrists under the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. And inhale, sweep that right arm up and open. Exhale, bring that right arm underneath the left. That right shoulder comes all the way down to the mat. That right ear comes down. We're gonna thread the needle. So that left hand is right in front of the face. And it can stay right here if that feels good, or you can walk that left hand to the front of your mat. If you like to take a half bind, you can always do that here too. But for today's practice, I'm just going to keep my left arm extended to the front of my mat. Those hips are staying high over the knees. Sliding that left hand back in front of the face if you moved it. Press into the palm. Inhale, sweep that right arm back up and open. And exhale back to your tabletop position, that neutral position. And we'll take this over to the other side. So pressing into that right hand, inhale, left arm sweeps up. And exhale, sliding that left arm underneath the right. That left shoulder, that left ear comes down to the mat. Right hand stays in front of your face, or we walk it forward towards the top of the mat. Again, offering that half bind as an option here. But just settling in however feels really good, what feels opening. Letting those shoulders release some tension that maybe they've been holding on to. I know that sometimes when I'm feeling stressed out and I'm feeling anxious, I notice and I can tell the places in my body where that stress and that tension and that anxiety is living. And one of the big places for me is my shoulders, the other being my hips. So when we start to slow our yoga practice back down, we're inviting in an opportunity for conversation with ourselves. So maybe you start to notice where it's living in your body. Go ahead and slide that right hand back in front of the face. Press it into the palm. Inhale, left arm sweeps back up and open. Exhale back to your tabletop position. And just start to step those knees back just a little bit. And we're coming into a pose called puppy pose. So we're starting in this tabletop and we're gonna walk each hand forward, taking a big step, and start to soften that chest down towards the mat and let that forehead come all the way down. And this is a really big opener. And so if you're feeling that, or if it's a little hard to get your forehead all the way to the mat, you can always grab that blanket and slide it underneath the forehead. If you happen to find that you have more space here, instead of that forehead, you can bring your chin to the chest, or your chin to the mat. And this is really big opener. So I'm going to encourage, for most of us today, that's probably just going to look like our forehead to the mat, not our chin. But I want to offer up that option for any of our more seasoned yogis or someone who's feeling super open today. It's always an option here. And let's take 3 more breaths. Last one. Exhale out of an open mouth. Inhale, just start to press yourself back up to your tabletop. Curl those toes under. Let the hips go high, downward facing dog. Walk it out. Pedaling out those feet. And sort of find some stillness, heels pulling down towards your mat, chest back towards your thighs. And stepping that right foot on the outside of that right hand. Let that left knee drop to the mat, lizard lunge. So this is a big hip opening. So I want you to send your breath down to those hips. Into that left hip flexor. And stay right here. You can take that right hand on the inside of that right thigh and just gently guide it away from the body. So we're not putting a ton of pressure into that right leg. We're just gently opening up the hip even more. So maybe you're really feeling it now also in that right hip. I really feel it on the inside of my right thigh and into my hip. And bringing that right hand back down to the mat. Curl those toes under, step back, downward facing dog. Take 2 rounds of breath. So get out of that what you need. If it's stillness, if it's walking out your dog. And now stepping that left foot on the outside of the left hand. Right knee softens down. And for this class today, we're just staying up on tall arms in this lizard lunge, but knowing that if you take this class again in the future and you want to take it deeper, you always have the option of coming down onto your forearms in a lizard lunge. And that'll get really intense and it gets really deep in there. So today we're just staying up on tall arms. And once again, stay right here or bring that left hand on the inside of that left thigh and just gently guide it away. And as you breathe, can you think about the exhales being this catalyst for some of that stress, that anxiety to melt away with it? So like it gets to leave on those exhales. And that left hand comes back to the mat. Curl your toes under. One more downward facing dog. 2 breaths. And softening your knees down to the mat. Go ahead and grab that blanket. And so I'm going to keep my blanket folded up a few times here. But then I'm going to roll it up. So we're going to make I often call it a little blanket yoga burrito. So making your blanket burrito. And once you have that, we're going to let that blanket burrito be parallel with the long edge of our mat. Sitting down about an inch or two away from the edge of that blanket burrito and slowly lowering down. So your spine is lining up with that blanket. And then depending on how long your blanket is, your head might rest back, or mine is somewhat supported here. And let your arms come out wherever is comfortable for you. You could always cactus them if that feels good. I like to take mine out wide. And with your feet, you could either extend the legs or you could keep the feet planted. You could take the feet about as wide as your yoga mat and let the knees knock in towards one another. So I've given you a few options there, and maybe you try each one on and you see what feels best in your body today. Maybe you try something you haven't tried before and you just see how that lands. And if it doesn't feel good, you go to something else. Knowing that our bodies are very different every day. They're different from morning to night. They're different from our left side to our right. And so in this really beautiful heart opening, can you let the shoulders relax a little bit more? Can you just let the weight of the arms be heavy underneath you? And to come out of this, if your feet aren't planted on the mat, first plant them on the mat. And you can either gently press yourself up or just easily kind of roll onto one side and off of that blanket roll, and then pressing yourself back up. Keeping that blanket in its roll shape, just move it out of the way and lower back down onto your back. Feet planted, knees up towards the sky. And we're going to tuck that tailbone, lift those hips up off of the mat, and slide your blanket roll right underneath and soften it down to the earth, or down onto that blanket roll. So those hips are supported. This is a really gentle supported bridge pose. So once again, letting yourself soften. Letting the eyes close. And now start to extend that right leg out long on your mat. You can stay right here or hug that left knee into the chest. So opening up the front of that right hip flexor. switching it out, planting that left foot back down. Bring that right foot in to meet it. And now extending that left leg. And staying there, pulling that right knee into the chest. Taking 3 rounds of breath on this side. Planting that right foot, planting that left foot. Lift your hips up, slide that blanket roll down, and we're going to come into a Shavasana. I want to give you the opportunity to slide that blanket roll all the way down underneath the knees. And then come into your Shavasana with your arms extended by your side. Letting the feet turn out. And if you don't like that blanket roll underneath your knees, you don't have to use it. Maybe it would be more comforting if you actually took that blanket and used it as a blanket and covered up the physical body. It's not uncommon for our bodies to get a little chilly in these slower practices where we literally let our nervous system calm down. Really trying to invite our body to come out of that fight or flight response. Breath in through the nose. Exhale out of an open mouth. Pull the knees into the chest. Circle. And switch directions. Roll over onto your right side. Just using this fetal pose to press ourselves back up to an easy seat. Letting your hands come to heart center. I hope you feel a little calmer, like you were able to release some of that anxiety, that stress, that worry, whatever you were holding on to prior to this practice. And knowing that a class like this is always here for you, always available to you. Om Shanti, peace. Thank you all so much for joining. If you are not already, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel, like this video, comment below if there's something you want to see, and maybe follow this practice up with a meditation. That could be really good. I definitely have a meditation for anxiety that would be a beautiful support for this practice. So I will see you next time.